If you've followed my channel for a little bit, you know that I like to dip my feet in ideas. This is just an idea that I came up with. If you've ever made curves like this with the bandsaw, how do you clean it up? Well, a spindle sander probably is the best way to do this, but some people don't have a spindle sander and it doesn't really work with something like a cove. So today, let's make our own sanding rollers out of PVC pipe. I've got all my PVC pipe here and I've got a big variety of them. You really don't have to have this many, but different sizes work better in different situations. There's actually not a whole lot that you need to even do here. You could just take this and wrap it around a PVC pipe and you'd be good to go. But it's really annoying if you have to take care of the sandpaper in your hand as you're taking care of the cut that you're trying to clean up. So today I'm going to show you an idea that will make it a little bit easier to work with the sandpaper. You'll probably not want to go above a 3-inch piece, as this just barely wraps around. Now you can see that I've cut all my lengths so that I can work the widthwise of the sandpaper. You can go the other way. I think you're saving a little bit more sandpaper going this way. One way or the other, it doesn't really matter. It's probably a good idea to add a line down the center instead of trying to do it on your own by freehand. So I'm going to use my marker freehanded and just go across like this. With this first one, I'm going to go ahead and use a handsaw. And since this will obviously close up as I cut this, I'm going to go ahead and just stick a shim in here. Hopefully that'll help. To find where to cut the sandpaper, I'm just going to wrap this around again so that they overlap just a little bit. Use a marker like that. I'll use my sandpaper cutter, just line it up on that mark. Now, because this is a very thin kerf, it's obviously going to be very difficult to get the sandpaper to slide inside of it. So what I'm going to do is take a 30-inch, 1.5 inch by about 1/2 inch piece of pine. You can get a piece of wood like this really cheap at hardware stores. It might cost you $1. I'll connect my points, draw a line, and we'll take this to the bandsaw and cut this out. Before we go any further, it's really crucial that you add some paste wax of some kind of lubrication. I wouldn't add oil to this, but that's something you could use. And the reason for this is that when you do this next step, it's really hard to get these apart. So I'm going to go ahead and add my paste wax now. You might have to add this wax a few times, depending on how this soaks up. You want to do both front and back of the thickness part, so that this comes out of the tube really easily later on. Also in the next little bit, you're going to see me using the pieces together like this, and this is where the cut was made along on the bandsaw. But I'm going to suggest that you go the opposite direction like this. And that's just because it's a smoother cut and it'll slide in and out better. Now I can take both pieces and I'll slide it in. I'll make sure that my cut's on the top. I'll go ahead and hit both sides to open this up. And now with my cut open, I can put one side in and then wrap it around and add the other side. And then I found, once I get both my ends in here, if you go like this, kind of roll it a little bit, it'll actually pull it into that cut. As you can see here, maybe. It's much more tight in there, and I can pull these things out now. I find if you tap on the table on the side, that's probably the best way to get it out, which means you might have to cut one edge a little bit so that you can tap on it without breaking it. But now that's in there really tight, I don't have to worry about that coming out. Now I'm going to switch over to the grinder, and I'm going to show you how you can make one with a cutoff blade. Like before, I'm going to use a marker across here, but I don't think I'm going to cut this in here with the grinder. Instead, I ran a thin strip of wood through the center, and I just used some clamps attached to a board to be able to keep it in one place so that I can make that cut. And there we go. You can see it's a much wider gap. Again, I'll slide one side in and wrap this around. Again, if I twist it, just does a really good job of getting that slack out. I'll tap this on the table again, and that pulls it out. And that's both methods. Obviously, with that thicker cut, your sandpaper is going to slide around a whole lot. That might be annoying, but every once in a while you just have to roll it a little bit to get it back inside the groove. Now, if you want this to be a little bit tighter, like the thin cut here, you can always add a piece of Velcro on the end. The one thing I do like about this is that I can use it end to end. I don't have to worry about it bumping into the Velcro. If you go to a large piece like this, you're gonna have to go with Velcro to get it to stay on. You can't make that cut down the center because your sandpaper is not gonna fit. Like I said, it just barely reaches around. You could always, I guess, take this at an angle if you wanted to, like that. I think it's kind of wasteful, but you can do that if you want. Just like any other piece of sandpaper, you can always use a piece of rubber. It's really quick, and then you can go back to sanding. But now I'll show you a little example of using these before I go. It's not a complicated concept, but I thought it was something that would be really useful in other people's shops. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below what you think of this.